Welcome everyone. In the last lecture we have studied about velocity, उसके पहले अपन ने speed के बारे में पढ़ा था और distance or displacement. So in this video lecture what we will do is do a couple of practice problems. Okay, and this is just basically to just revise the concepts we have learned and get more better at it. Okay, so पहला example क्या है कि so question is Rahul traveled a total distance of 100 km in 2 hours. So, and the question is asking us to calculate his average speed. So, if you recall from our previous lecture, so average speed is what? Average speed is basically total distance traveled, right? Divided by total time taken. Alright. In this example, Rahul covered a total distance of 100 kilometers and he took about 2 hours, right? So his average speed was it's 50 kilometer per hour. Average speed. Okay. Alright, so it's pretty simple. Let's move on to a second one. In this one, what problem is asking us, and you might see these examples or these kind of questions very often in your exams and textbooks, is they will give you a figure in which an object motion is represented, and then they will ask you to calculate different variables such as average speed, average velocity. Okay. Now in this one, what we are having a car and it's moving, and then question is to calculate average speed and average velocity of the car throughout the journey, right? So let's understand this more. For average speed, as we know, we need to calculate total distance, right? As the car is moving from A to B, the car has covered about 10 kilometers, and then it took about 1 minute, right? Then car goes from B to C, and in that car traveled almost 30 kilometers and it took 1 minute. So car really speed up in this one, right? And then car went from C to D, again traveled 10 kilometers in 1 minute, right? And then the last one is car went from D to E, and in this it traveled 10 kilometers in 1 minute. Okay, so the question is calculate average speed. So average speed is pretty simple. So average speed is what? Basically total distance traveled, which is 10 plus 30 plus 10 plus 10, which is about how much? 60 kilometers, and then total time taken, which is about 4 minutes, right? So average speed is what? 15 kilometer per minute. Okay. Now you might see this unit kilometer per minute is not a SI unit, but it's a unit of speed. Now if the question asks you to convert this into SI unit, then you can easily convert kilometer to meter and minute to second, right? So that's pretty simple. Second part of the question is what is the average velocity? Now this is where it gets a little trickier. Okay. Now in average velocity, or the displacement upon time taken, right? Now, so as a car is going from A to B to C to D, we have two approaches. Let's do the lengthy one first. Okay. So as let's say this is a positive direction and this is a negative direction. Okay, so as car is moving from A to B, his car direction is positive. B to C is again positive. C to D is negative, and then D to E is negative. Okay, so now if I ask, now the question is asking to calculate average velocity. So average velocity is basically total is a displacement, right? So what's a displacement? So average velocity is pretty simple. Either we can add all these things together, okay, and then with their direction, and then calculate. So that would be plus 10, right? That's A to B, and B to C is another plus 30. C to D is minus 10, and then D to A is minus 10. And this is because of the direction, right? And total time was 4 minutes, right? So average velocity is about what? Average velocity is basically 20 by 4, which is about 5 kilometer per minute. Okay. Now let me. That's one way of looking at it, right? And another way of looking at it is basically average velocity is displacement upon time, right? And what is displacement? Displacement is basically the shortest distance between initial point, which is A, and the final point, which is E. So that what is the net displacement? Before I do that, let me correct one thing here. This is positive, right? It's positive 5 kilometer per minute. I need to make sure we are adding direction, because velocity is a vector quantity and we need to make sure we provide direction to it. अभी जो second approach में बोल रहा था उसमें क्या है कि displacement. So displacement is the shortest distance between initial and final point. So initial point is A, final point is E. So the shortest distance you can take from A to E is just this direction, right? So that is plus 20, because you are going in this direction and this is positive. So, and the time taken, that's total time taken, so which is again 4. So you can see this is also 5 plus 5 kilometer per minute. So we have two ways of calculating the average velocity. Either you can sum up all the displacements with their signs, like plus, minus, all that stuff, or you can just calculate the displacement, which is basically the initial and the final point, and then divide by the time taken. So we have solved the problem. Our average speed was about 15 kilometer per minute, and average velocity was 5 kilometer per minute. Okay. Let's move on to the third problem. So third problem, they are again given a diagram to us like in the previous problem. तो अभी इसमें क्या है कि एक कार जो है राउंड ट्रैक में ट्रैवल कर रही है, और they are asking us to calculate the average velocity of the car after the car has completed 1 round, or car has completed 2 rounds, or car has completed n rounds. Now this is a tricky one, right? But it's pretty simple if you think about it. So average velocity. Now we have done the problem of average velocity in the previous question too. So average velocity is what? Like displacement upon time, right? Okay. So and that with the direction. Now if the car completes its path and this completes 1 round, so let's say initially the car is actually here, right? And so car starts traveling, goes this way, traveling, and after 1 round, car will come back to its initial point. So the displacement of the car after 1 round would be what? 0. And let's say it takes about t time to complete this round. So, but the 0 by t is still 0, right? So the average velocity of the car after 1 round would be 0, because the shortest distance between the initial and the final point after 1 round would be 0. Now they did not specify the unit, so let's say it is meter per second. Similarly, after 2 rounds, car would, let's say in the second, car will again come back to its initial point, right? So even after second round, velocity would be 0 meter per second, right? So as long as car is completing full round, its velocity will always be 0 because the displacement is 0, right? So answer here is 0 meter per second, 0 meter per second, and then 0 meter per second.